Thank you for joining me as we begin this four-part exploration of the beast described in Daniel and Revelation and the significance of its mark. Our study will unfold step by step, first identifying the beast, then asking whether its mark is literal, uncovering what the beast truly desires, and finally determining who will bear its mark. The world is experiencing a noticeable spiritual decline, and many people are increasingly uncertain about what the future holds. While global leaders often claim to be acting in humanity's best interest, their decisions frequently involve restrictions that raise concerns about personal freedom. History shows that once freedoms are surrendered, they are rarely restored, yet many seem willing to trade them away without reflection. This has led some to question whether current global trends align with the prophetic warnings found in Scripture, specifically those related to the mark of the beast. But before identifying the mark of the beast, it is essential to understand the characteristics of the beast itself as described in Daniel and Revelation. In other words, one needs to identify the beast before one can identify its mark. Our journey begins with part 1, where we will uncover the key characteristics of the beast revealed in Daniel and Revelation. After that, the responsibility of determining its identity will rest entirely with you, as I won't be naming the beast myself. We'll begin by reading Revelation chapter 13, verses 5 to 7. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations. The beast is described as having authority to wage war against the saints for 42 months. This prophetic period, 1,260 days, represents 1,260 years, following the biblical principle of a day for a year. If you're not familiar with this principle, feel free to leave a comment, and by God's grace, I will prepare a presentation explaining it in detail. The beast is also described as speaking blasphemy. To understand the meaning of blasphemy from a biblical perspective, we'll look closely at Mark chapter 2, verse 7, and John chapter 10, verse 33. Mark chapter 2, verse 7 reads, Why does this man speak such blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? According to this first biblical definition of blasphemy, the charge arises when a being claims the divine authority to forgive sins. On this basis, the beast is understood to commit blasphemy by asserting the power to forgive sins, a prerogative belonging to God alone. John chapter 10, verse 33 reads, The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God. According to this second biblical definition of blasphemy, the charges arise when a being claims to be divine like God. Thus, within Revelation chapter 13, verses 5 to 7, we can identify 3 defining characteristics of the beast. First, it possesses authority to persecute the saints, God's faithful people. Second, it asserts the power to forgive human sins, a prerogative Scripture reserves exclusively for God alone. And third, it claims a level of authority that belongs to God only. The fourth characteristic appears in Revelation chapter 13, verse 4, which reads, And they worshiped the dragon who gave power to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? This reveals that the beast receives its authority from the dragon, and in prophetic interpretation, that authority is exercised through Rome. The fifth characteristic can be found in Revelation chapter 17, verse 3, which reads, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The imagery presents a woman, symbolizing a religious body, riding a beast which represents a civil or political power. Together, the picture reveals a system in which spiritual authority is fused with governmental power, a union of church and state acting in concert. This trait highlights a governing power that is not merely political, nor merely religious, but a hybrid system where ecclesiastical influence directs or rides upon civil authority. It becomes a defining marker in prophetic interpretation because it distinguishes the beast not simply by its political strength, but by its religious character intertwined with the state power. The sixth identifying characteristic appears in Revelation chapter 17, verse 4, which reads, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication." The imagery highlights a power marked by opulence, religious symbolism, and outward splendor. In this description, the beast is associated with these same colors, purple and scarlet, signifying a system characterized by both royal display and ecclesiastical authority. This trait reinforces the portrait of a religious political power whose identity is expressed not only through its actions, but also through its distinctive colors, wealth, and ceremonial grandeur. The seventh characteristic is found in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, which reads, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time." This prophecy describes a power that not only opposes God and persecutes his people, but also presumes the authority to alter divine law, with particular emphasis on the time-related commandment, the fourth commandment concerning the Sabbath. This trait highlights a defining characteristic, a system that elevates its own authority above God's by attempting to modify what God himself established as unchangeable. The eighth characteristic is found in Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, which reads, "Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." This passage indicates that the beast is associated with a specific identifying number, 666, and that this number is linked to a man, suggesting a leader whose name or title corresponds symbolically or numerically to this figure. This trait underscores that the prophetic system is not merely an institution, but one that is represented or embodied by a human leader whose designation aligns with the number 666, serving as a distinguishing marker within the prophetic narrative. The 8 characteristics can be summarized as follows. 1. Exercises authority to persecute God's people for 42 months. 2. Claims the power to forgive sins, a prerogative belonging to God alone. 3. Claims divine status, placing itself in the position of God. 4. Receives its power and authority from Rome. 5. Operates as a union of religion and state, a church-state power. 6. Is arrayed in purple and scarlet, marked by distinctive colors and ceremonial splendor. 7. Thinks to change times and laws, specifically the time-based commandment of the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week. And 8. Is associated with a leader whose name or title corresponds to the number of 666. Together, these characteristics form a clear prophetic profile of the beast's power. I have not named this power directly, yet the scriptural traits themselves point unmistakably to its identity for those who study Daniel and Revelation carefully. Understanding these prophetic markers prepares us for the next crucial step, examining the nature of the beast's mark. Scripture presents this mark not as a mere symbol, but as a sign of allegiance, revealing whom humanity ultimately chooses to honor and obey. With the identity of the beast established through the combined testimony of Scripture, we can now explore what the mark represents, how it is received, and why it becomes a central issue of loyalty in Earth's final conflict between truth and deception. Part 2 will address a vital question. Is the mark of the beast literal or symbolic according to the Scripture? It is my prayer that you found this information helpful and that you would share it and join us for Part 2.